We are told that we live in a material world, and that consciousness is just a fluke of biology. But what if the science and spirituality point to the exact opposite? Welcome to the Consciousness Formula. Hi, I'm Dave, and I've been researching, studying, experiencing, practicing everything I can do to get my head around, my heart around, my experience around what consciousness is for the last several decades, basically all of my adult life. In the last 20 years or so, this century, a ton of progress has been made in this field. And I'm going to try to boil all of this down, the centuries of mysticism, the centuries of philosophy and science and the like. I'm going to try to boil it all down to a simple formula made of 4 statements. And I'm going to give you those 4 statements, and then I'm going to try to back that up. So here are the 4 statements. 1, you are the subject. 2, subjectivity, consciousness, is universal. That's a big leap there. 3, if you are the subject and subjectivity is universal, you therefore are universal consciousness. And 4, and this is another big leap, all else is content. Everything else is the content of consciousness. So let's dig into this. Let's start with statement number 1. You are the subject of your experience. And I like shortening that to you are the subject, because as a subject, you could even say you are the experience itself. You're the one having the experience. And let's take the noun of subject experience out of it and say this is more of a verb. You are experiencing itself. You are experiencing. This is actually a rather intuitive statement that we got to break it down a little bit to get at the heart of it. But I think you'll see that this statement in particular, the you are the subject, is a pretty easy one to grasp. So let's start with this. Intuitively, we feel we are what's called the skin-encapsulated ego. We are this body-mind. I am David. I am sitting here talking to you. There's a boundary to me. It's my body with its 5 senses. So, I've got a body. I've got a brain inside the body. I've got my eyes that are bringing in light and telling me things. My ears that are bringing in sound and telling me things, right? My nose is bringing in smell, taste, sensation from the outside perimeter of my body, the skin. All those sensations come into my brain and produce a bunch of thoughts and experiences and the like. That's how we go about thinking about ourselves today. So there is a me, there is a boundary to me, and then I feel all that stuff coming in. That right there is a hint as to what we really are when I say we are the subject. Think about it this way. If I have my hand here, I look at my hand, I see my hand. Am I my hand? Or am I the one looking at my hand? Okay, it's pretty easy to say I'm the one looking at my hand, right? If you took my hand away, if for some reason it got chopped off or went away, would I still be me? Yep. Slightly different boundaries, though I'd still be me. So I'm not my hand. I could go through this exercise with all my body parts, hands, feet, legs, what have you. The point is my body is actually an object of my experience. I experience my body. Therefore, I am not my body. I'm the subject inside that's experiencing my body. So that starts getting at it right there. It's almost like, let's say I was in a virtual reality. I put on a headset, right? And I start seeing the world through this virtual reality headset. I'm kind of an avatar now, looking at this virtual reality world, whether it's through a game or just exploring a landscape, what have you. Do I think I'm that avatar? No. I know I am the one looking through the virtual reality headset. So you can kind of think of it this way. The body, the mind that I am using is that virtual reality headset. I am the one actually having the experience. What happens if you take that headset off? So we can do that. We can put you or me into a sensory deprivation chamber, they call it. You lie in this thing, and it takes away all the sights, all the sounds. It's pitch black. You don't feel anything. There's nothing for your senses to get a hold of. So all the inputs you get into your brain are gone. Sensory deprivation chamber. Are you still there? Yeah. You may not be experiencing any of the sensations, but you're still experiencing. It's just lacking a lot of content. Your brain may be running a little wild with this. I'm going to fill in what's going on here because I don't like not having all those sensations, so I'm going to start just thinking about stuff. Wow, I don't hear anything. I don't see anything, but I'm still here. Yeah, this is kind of cool. I wonder how long I can take this before I get bored, and on and on and on your thoughts will go. Okay, so now we kind of see we're not our body. We can take away all our senses, and we're still there. Well, what about our thoughts? Are we our thoughts? Are we the ones generating our thoughts? What are these thoughts? That you can also get rid of. Experienced meditators with lots of practice are able to watch their thoughts, let their thoughts go, and keep letting their thoughts go to a point where the thinking basically stops, and then you're just experiencing. Put together the sensory deprivation chamber and meditating in that to where there are no thoughts. And now you have no sensations, no thoughts. It's just blank. Now, meditators get to this spot at times. I have been to that spot in meditation where everything just goes totally senseless, if you will. They sometimes call it black, the void. It's not really black in the void. It's more white, but it is without content. Are you still there? Yep, you sure are. So, you're the subject. But now you're the subject without the body-mind, without the thoughts. Buddhists, by the way, call thoughts the sixth sense. So you sense your thoughts. You receive your thoughts in the Buddhist tradition. So think of it like another sensory input, all the thoughts that you have. But there you are without sensations, without thoughts, totally blank and without content, and you still exist. Why is this important? It's important to separate out who you really think you are from who you intuitively think you are. You intuitively think you are this body-mind running around the world, interacting with the world. But I think you could pretty easily agree you're actually the one having the experience. I'm the subject of my experience. You could put it as, I am David, I am a podcaster, I am a retired executive, I'm a former student of graduate studies of consciousness. I have all sorts of I ams I can put in there. Take all that stuff out. All you've got left is I am. You're the I am in all those statements. So that's the first statement. You're the subject of your experience. We shorten that to just, you are the subject. So what is that subject? Is it personal, or is there more to it? That's going to be the second statement. And now let's explore that. Today, we're going to tackle the second statement. Subjectivity, consciousness is universal. This is a big leap. It's pretty obvious to us that we're individuals. We feel like it all the time. I don't, know what's going through my wife's brain all the time. She doesn't know what's going through mine, no matter how close we are. It feels like we are walled off inside here and having our own experience. This statement says, no, consciousness is universal. So it implies that individuality you feel is not who you are, is somehow an illusion. And we'll actually dive into that part of it in the third statement, the you are universal consciousness. But there's another implication to it, which is that essentially the subject looking through my eyes and the subject looking through your eyes are the same subject. Not similar, not alike, exact same subject. That's what we're going to tackle in this statement. We're going to tackle essentially, what is that subjectivity you feel? Why is that universal? We're going to break that down. I'm going to break it down into the felt experience of universal consciousness, how mysticism, how the mystics throughout the millennia have tackled this, how the major religions view this, because at their core, not necessarily how they're all practiced today, but at their core, they hold the same truth. And then we're going to take a dive into philosophy and science and how those are starting to change in relation to this particular statement. So let's talk about the experience itself. It starts with, if we go to the felt experience, it starts with meditation. And if you go into deep meditation, there's mindfulness meditation, of course, where we simply sit and watch our thoughts without any judgment on those thoughts, just a simple awareness of the thoughts, let them come in, let them pass through, and simply sit with that. If you do that for long enough, those thoughts will start to subside. And as those thoughts subside and you maintain that, you can reach a place where the thoughts stop. And all you experience is nothing, really. You don't experience your senses. You don't experience your thoughts. You're just kind of a blank space there. But you're not gone. You're still there. You're still the subject of your experience. There's just no objects to it. And so it's a almost contentless experience, if you will. And if you maintain that for long enough, there are people that will tell you that that space expands, not the contents. The space itself expands. The feeling of individuality goes away. So as the thoughts stop, as the sensations stop, and you get to pure experience, the individuality also stops. And if you sit with that long enough, suddenly space itself expands and you feel that you are everywhere, that you are universal, that you are oneness. This is what is meant by the oneness, the universal consciousness, the universal awareness, really. And I'm going to differentiate a little here, because in practices like non-duality, we distinguish between awareness and consciousness. Really deep, just awareness, no contents. Just awareness is like just being space itself. And it is just the ability to be aware, the awaring, if you will. Consciousness is the activity of awareness. That is where we start having experiences, and there's contents to that experience, etc. Both universal, but there is a base place which is just pure awareness. Other ways of reaching that state, there have been experiences of oneness reported by people who have near-death experiences. There's common threads to the near-death experience. You rise out of your body. You see what's happening on the operating table below you. Some see what's happening in rooms around them, outside the building. By the way, these have been verified, so it's not like it's just, oh, I'm subconsciously hearing things and seeing things in my body and then imagining that I'm outside my body in the room. These people have veridical experiences that they report from when they were in the room of things happening outside the room that they would have no way otherwise of knowing. So and then they get past that and they start going toward that tunnel of light. And toward the end of the tunnel of light, they realize they have a choice to make. Do I continue or do I go back? And one of the common things of the continuing is that they would be continuing into oneness. Their individuality would go away. They would continue into oneness. And if they do that, there's no turning back. And obviously the people we know that report near-death experiences have come back. So we only know the part where they go, okay, I'm not going into that oneness, I'm coming back. But they speak of a oneness that they are heading toward. Others have had this happen taking psychedelics, psilocybin, magic mushrooms, DMT, things like that, where the sense of individuality goes away. And suddenly there's this overwhelming sense of oneness with everything. And there can be a lot of psychedelic experiences that go with that. Though there's a new psychedelic drug called 5-MeO-DMT that seems to strip away the hallucinatory aspects. And people report not just having a feeling of oneness, but that it's a very full feeling with no experiential content. And it looks white, not black, not, gone, white, just brilliantly, fully white. And that's it. So there are a number of ways to get to this felt experience. What's really going on there? Neuroscientists have been looking at this, whether it's from people who have meditation, people taking psychedelics. Those are the two they actually look at more. And when they hook them up into fMRI machines where they can scan their brains as they go through this experience, there is a set of brain circuits called the default mode network. And that default mode network is constantly filtering things and creating the story of who we are. In Eastern traditions, we might call this the monkey mind, the thoughts that are constantly playing through our head as we go through our day. That is part of the default mode network, but so is the story we generate about who we are, who we were in the past, who we are now. It's a constantly running narration. In these experiences, whether it's meditation or psychedelics, what they're finding, even though the experience is vast, is that the brain isn't lighting up and suddenly becoming more active. Really what's happening is the default mode network is shutting down. So when you shut down the default mode network, which is the story of who we are, naturally the sense of being an individual goes away. And when that sense of being an individual goes away, interestingly, the sense of oneness comes in. So it's like that sense of oneness is really always there in the background. It's covered over by our telling ourselves the story of who we are. It's covered over by the default mode network. Really, what's beneath everything, when you strip out all that stuff, is the felt sense of oneness with everything. So that's kind of what's going on neuroscience-wise. Meditation reduces the DMN. Psychedelics reduce the DMN. That's a very interesting way that we are now finding through modern technology like fMRIs, that really what's happening in these experiences is a reduction of brain activity specifically in the DMN that opens up this world of universal consciousness. So that felt experience and how that happens in the brain seems to be indicating that there really may be universal consciousness. Let's dive into that a little more. Let's look a little bit at how the mystics have looked at it, because science is now starting to go back to, and they have ever since quantum physics, that the Eastern religions in particular seem to tell us a good bit and seem to resonate with what we're finding in science. But it goes back further than that. Let's go first into what might be called Semitic religions as we look at this. And remember, each of the religions that we have, the founders were really mystics. Even if we don't practice Judaism or Christianity or Islam from a necessarily mystic point of view, the founders, that's what they were. And they all found the same thing. So start with Judaism. If you go back to Exodus and look at Moses, remember the story of Moses and the burning bush? When he asked what the burning bush was, what did the burning bush say? I am. Not I am God, I am your Lord, all that kind of stuff. Simply, I am. A declaration of beingness. Not a declaration of anything else but beingness, which is a declaration of oneness as well. In the Shema, the most sacred article of faith in the Jewish religion, we say, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is one. And many have taken that to mean there's only one Lord, there's only one God. But another way to look at that the way the mystics look at it is I am one. God is one. There is oneness. Everything is one. That's right at the foundation there in Judaism. Take that to the later, what we call Semitic religions, the religions that came out of Judaism, Christianity, and then Islam. While Christianity, we see a lot of God is some being that controls what's its external being, controlling things. Many people are starting to say God is actually inside, and that we are one with God. There was a thread of that back, 1,000 years or so ago with a mystic, a Christian mystic called Meister Eckhart, who claimed he was God. And he wasn't saying, I personally am God. He is saying, I am God, everyone is God, the same, everything is oneness. The way he put it was, quote, the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. My eye and God's eye is one eye, and one seeing, and one knowing, and one love. Everything is one. This was Meister Eckhart. At the time, it was pretty controversial, and he was dragged off to the Inquisition and mysteriously died on his way to the Inquisition. So for some reason, this mystic oneness became blasphemy in the church, but it really is what's behind the religion itself. Another one to look at it is Islam. There are mystics in Islam as well. The Sufis in particular. One of the most famous Sufis is a poet named Rumi, and he has some wonderful poetry he's put out there that all speaks to the oneness of God's love. And another quote I look at here is Rumi, quote, in things spiritual, there is no partition, no number, no individuals. How sweet is the oneness, unearth the treasure of unity. So it really is there. Aldous Huxley looked at all these threads in the religions, and including the Eastern religions, which we'll get into in a minute, and he called it the perennial philosophy, the idea that the divine is within and is oneness, and we are all one, finds itself into almost every religion in the world. So he called that the perennial philosophy. What's happened to that? This is my personal opinion, but a lot of scholars think this as well. A lot of, after a religion is formed from its mystical core, it develops rituals, it gets absorbed into its culture, and those rituals and culture kind of cover over the original mystical knowledge that created that religion. And we see that, I think. It led a professor I had of comparative religion to say that the mystics of each religion have more in common with each other than they do their base religions. Because they were all founded there, but they've been covered over by ritual and culture over the years. Eastern religions have been a more direct path. They haven't been covered over as much. Buddhism, even today, still talks about emptiness at the core. Emptiness, in the case of Buddhism, isn't nothingness. It can be misinterpreted that way. It is actually the space that contains everything. So think of it as space, and the potential inside of that space is unlimited because it is just space. It is where all things unfold. The space that contains all, the space within which everything arises. We are that space, that emptiness. Hinduism has a tradition called non-duality, Advaita Vedanta, in which awareness, universal and undifferentiated, is that within which all happens. And we are that awareness. It's called non-duality because it does not distinguish between the divine and the physical universe, between consciousness and the physical universe. It basically says awareness is the source of everything. At root, we are only one thing. We are only awareness. And it's not even a thing. Awareness is awaring, if you will. Ramana put this well when he said, the self is the only reality. So there's only one self in non-duality, and we are all that one self that then expresses itself in all these myriad forms. But at root, we are one self. One of my favorite quotes from Ramana was actually when someone asked him, well, given all of that, how should we treat others? And he responded, there are no others. Love that one from him. I also, oddly enough, I came upon Ramana only about, 12, 13 years ago after I had my own type of awakening experience and I started digging into it more and more. And he said, there's only one question you need to ask to reach awakening. Who am I? And keep asking who am I relentlessly until you dig into it in the bottom. In the end, the question isn't meant to get an answer so much as it is dissolve the questioner. But you just keep pursuing who am I. Unbeknownst to me, that's what I've been doing all my life. I've never not had the question in my mind, who am I? Modern mystics take up the same thread. The most popular modern mystic today, I think, is Eckhart Tolle. People love reading his books, whether it's The Power of Now or New Earth or any of his books, and he talks very much about oneness there. He talks about the now, being the only moment, being present in that moment, but he also talks about the oneness, that we are not persons, that we should not take things personally. I like to look at it as, there's nothing personal here because there are no persons here. There's only universal consciousness. A quote from Eckhart Tolle I like: enlightenment is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being. So, all of these mystics and religions are essentially saying, we are all one. There's one consciousness, universal consciousness. Great. That's religions. That's mystics. You know what? We've learned so much from science in the last couple hundred years, and we've learned that science works and works well. We've seen what the mystics say, but we've also learned that science works and it works well. So if consciousness is universal, why does it feel so personal? Why am I me and you are you? Next time on the Consciousness Formula, we take a look through the lens of modern physics and neuroscience, as well as philosophy. We'll look at the hard problem of consciousness, the mystery of the quantum observer, and why your sense of being an individual might just be a trick of your own memory. We'll see you in part 2.